Welcome to Snap by Siinda, your gateway to key insights into the world of business regulations, innovations, and trends. In just 10 minutes per episode, we'll provide you with a concise snapshot of what matters most in the business landscape.
So today, I'm going to try to talk in 10 minutes about the newly adopted EU AI Act. So first of all, what's the AI Act? This is the first horizontal legislation adopted globally on AI, and the EU has been at the forefront of that, similar to what it did with GDPR for data protection. The ambition of the European Union here is to come up with a global standards and principle-based regulation on AI. The way it's done, it's built on a tiered risk-based approach, sorry. So meaning that it classifies the AI systems based on the level of risk that they hold to, and that they can be considered to have for the final users. So basically, there are four types of risks that have been classified by the EU. So the first one is the unacceptable risks, and the ones who are dealing with that are simply not allowed. Then you have the high risk, the middle risk, and the low risk. So if we go now to what has been a very important and very debated domain about AI, which has triggered a lot of discussions during the late lobby and the late different exposures. This is about the AI definition, because it's very important to know what we're talking about when we're talking about AI. So in the EU definition that's been adopted, and we're still waiting for the final text to be released, but this is what's coming from the agreed, let's say, compromise. So an AI system is a machine-based system designed to operate with varying levels of autonomy, and that may exhibit adaptiveness after deployment, and that for explicit or implicit objectives infers from the input it receives how to generate outputs, such as predictions, content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environment. So there are some exemptions. It does not apply to national security, to military or defense, or it does not apply for the sole purpose of research and innovation. And another important carve out is that it won't apply to people using AI solely for personal, non-professional reasons. And what's interesting to note in this AI definition is that it's very large. It's based on the AI definition that's been promoted by the OECD recently. And basically, it can embark anything that, digests an input and produce an output in the end. So the major points agreed upon in the late compromise, and when I say the late compromise, the final deal took place on February 2nd. We're February 7 today, so it's been only 5 days, and we're still trying to figure out, what the final text is going to look like. But the origin of the AI Act dates back from more than 1.5 years. So it's been really, really dense discussions. So the major points agreed upon, I mean, you have several listed there, but first one is the risk categorization. So I spoke about, the unacceptable risk, high risk and low risk. Then there are some prohibited practices which lay with the unacceptable risks. For example, subliminal techniques. For example, social scoring is not allowed. Then you have transparency and traceability as basic principles for AI providers. So they need to inform users that they are interacting with AI. No matter what the level of risk, you will always need to inform about the interaction. And of course, the traceability of decisions made by the AI system must be documented and kept. Another important compromise lays with the data governance systems put in place, for the AI Act. So the first one is about the quality of data that's used for training. And here we see that there's a requirement that there is a very high quality for training. And the second one, another one, I mean, sorry, is that it should prevent bias. So the way the data is used should be monitored in order to avoid that the AI is only working on a certain set of data, which then can lead to bias. And for the high-risk AI systems, there are additional layers of transparency requirements. There's also the requirement to have an implementation of a risk-based management system. And last but not least, I mean, there are some third-party conformity assessments that are going to be required from AI system providers, both the providers and the AI system users too. I mean, the ones who it can be the first person who provides an AI system, but also other users that are using them for business purposes. So the unacceptable risks, as I said, I mean, they are completely banned. So for example, social scoring or the systems which are employing subliminal techniques beyond the individual consciousness. And this is done in order to distort behavior. So this is completely banned. And also any AI system that would obviously exploit susceptibilities associated with age or physical mental disability is not allowed. Then if we go now to the obligations for high-risk AI systems providers, I mean, you have a lot. I listed only 8 here, but there's going to be a lot. So the implementation of a risk management system, data quality analysis and data governance program. You should also think about having a strong technical documentation about how the AI works and interacts. Record keeping, that's important, not only the logs, but what type of interaction has been happening between the AI and the final user. A very important point is the requirement for human oversight. There's a possibility for humans to take over and to correct some of the outputs, or to infer if the outputs is manifestly biased, with the possibility of the AI here. Transparency and provision of information to the users. This is going to increase over. Accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity, obviously a key element there. And last but not least, a fundamental rights impact assessment prior to putting an AI system into use. So this is a similar exercise that has been put forward by the GDPR when was proposed what we call the balancing test. So meaning that there needs to be an assessment of how much impact this is going to have on fundamental rights of the final user, because if this overrides the acceptable level of impact on fundamental rights, then it shouldn't be proceed. Then another very important point from the AI Act that has been debated quite a lot is the question of ethical AI provisions. And everybody's very aware that the technology goes really fast, and that some ethics and some guidelines are really important to be put in place in order to ensure it goes the way we think it should go. So the respect for human autonomy, the prevention of harm, fairness and non-discrimination, a very important component, the transparency, and also the explainability. So as much as it's possible to avoid the black box effect. Then the human oversight we spoke about, privacy and data governance. This is key, and this should be really embarked at scale and by design, right? The privacy by design and the data governance by design are some key elements for the AI development. Then also the impact on the environmental and societal well-being. So, what benefits are the use of this AI going to bring to the bigger picture, and to the, let's say, take into account the ESG component. And by saying take into account, I jump to the last point, which is accountability. And this is a new principle put in place too, is that to say you need to be aware that when you're developing that, you also held accountable. So one of the big points that has been very contentious, especially at the end of the negotiations between the 3 EU institutions, was about the generative AI and the foundational models. So foundation or foundational, you can find the two words, but they mean the same. And the deal that has been struck is basically saying that, of course, foundational models and AI systems that are built on top of them. They need to draw a better documentation to comply with the EU copyright law. So meaning that the data that's used to train these type of models needs to be fully copyright and IPR rights compliant, and also to share more information about what data the model was trained off, what type of data. And for the most powerful models, there are some extra requirements that are listed a little bit below. So, for example, the security, the energy consumption, or the energy efficiency is also a key requirement that's been put in place and added very lately into the deal. And for these categories, strict set of rules would apply, and the way it's decided, let's say, it still has to be the level, the cursor still has to be set. But basically, it's the question of are these Gen AI or foundational models really are they susceptible, let's say, to cause a systemic risk? And this is categorized by the computing power that's needed to train them. And it will be up to companies to assess whether they fall under the stricter rules or not. So these additional layers of obligations would include, for example, an increased risk management, but also monitoring of serious incidents, a model evaluation, and some red teaming processes to be put in place. So this will be implemented through codes of practice, but also through implementing act that the European Commission will develop after the AI Act text is officially released in the official journal. And everybody's expecting no less than 20 or maybe 30 implementing act to better define, to strictly define what types of additional layers are going to be put in place. On the governance, the AI Act is putting in place a different set of bodies. So first of all, there will be an EU AI office, which oversees the most advanced AI model, also fosters standards and enforces common rules. Aside to that, a scientific panel of independent experts will be advising about Gen AI models, about the foundational models and the high impact that these can have. And aside to that, there will be an AI board composed of representatives of the member states, also helped by an advisory forum with industry representatives, SMEs, experts who can provide technical expertise. So what are the next steps? I mean, the formal vote. So there's been a deal, and we know that the lines, the red lines are not going to change between the EP, the Council, and the Commission. But procedurally, there's still a formal EP vote needed. So this should happen on February the 13th in the committee and in the plenary of the European Parliament, presumably on April 10 or 11. Then once it's really closed, it will be published in the official journal of the European Union, and the act will enter into force 20 days after the publication of in the official journal. And as I said before, it's not the end of the story, because then there will be at least 20 implementing acts or guidelines or code of conducts also going along in order to help AI providers navigate the layer of obligations and requirements that they will have to cope with. So this is the end of. It's not the end; it's just the beginning of the never-ending story of the EU AI Act, and I think we can come up maybe in a few months' time to see what practical impact this can have also on our sector. Thank you very much for tuning with us. This was Snap by Siinda, a 10-minute snapshot on one regulatory or one key trend, organization and development in the digital advertising technology and marketing sector environment. And if you're interested and you would like to know more, you can go to our website, and you can know more about Siinda by typing www.siinda.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for watching this episode of Snap by Siinda. If you would like to explore more topics, check out our social media and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.